Oh my gosh. Hold on. There we go. We are LIVE live or live, but we're live. There we go. Sorry everyone. We're a little bit tardy today because of technology. Not our fault. Technology's fault, right, Tom?
Sure.
Yeah, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. It's a beautiful day to be alive. What do you think?
I think it is. You're right.
Thank you. I'm just leading off with everything today. Welcome, anybody who's joining us. It's been a full moon sort of week for me. I don't know if it's a full moon, but week of Mondays. Week of Mondays. Same for you?
Yeah, it's just you know what? It's one of those things that I always say I need to reset in that. I got a busy day tomorrow. I'm in Vancouver early and late. We're doing tastings at some universities. And so it just, the drive, I don't mind driving, but it's highway driving and it's a horrible busy highway. So I hate that.
Yeah.
And then we're sampling coffee. I mean, we got the coffee, but it's at a university, so they're giving away free food and free coffee. So we're there just to say, hey, this is our coffee. Like,
Yeah, for sure. Can
kiss
people buy
babies and
it for
shake
home
hands.
use?
What's that?
Can people buy it for home use?
You can go on the website and order it. And um, honestly, if somebody's a coffee drinker, like this sounds terrible. It doesn't benefit me, so I would tell people do whatever they want.
Of
But
course.
seriously, like if I was going to buy coffee online, I think there's enough really decent coffee on Amazon.
Got
And if
it.
you want boutique coffee, if you want like um there's just lots of boutique coffee
Sure.
companies. So yeah, so our company is more based on the commercial aspect,
That's what I
but
thought.
we
Yeah.
do have a website, and one of the coffees I can say is that we are the roasters for a coffee called Spirit Bear, which is a very important brand. So you can look it up.
Okay.
And Spirit Bear has their own website, and they ship all through Canada. And part of their money goes back to the well-being of endangered species and stuff. So I love that.
Yeah,
And
because
it's
you're
a
a fair trade brand, are you not?
certified. Well, they're certified fair trade. Yeah, almost. Yeah, almost all of our stuff. But they're
That's what I
they're
thought.
certified fair trade. We're the roasters, so we're partners. We have some actually
Gotcha.
ownership, right? But anyway, so they. But anyways, yeah, it's funny with stuff. You and me have talked off and on a little bit about the little mom pause, but then all of our friends work at Walmart and they need jobs and blah blah blah, right?
Oh, I get it. Yep.
Yeah, and so in it, it's really interesting is the story, right? And so yeah, it's just this thing of I think it's easy just to go through life and head down. It's the Matrix thing, you're the
Sure.
suits walking down like you're dead, right?
Yep.
But I'm almost finished. I'm just trying to do something. I every once in a while I write different things, and I write things, and I need to do it. It's almost a bit of my like healing or my centering, right?
Yep.
And so I had this word pop in my head Monday because it's been really it's been challenging 2 weeks for me, a lot of different levels, right? And in it, I had this word traversing. You know what traversing means?
No, can't say I do.
So it's a climbing thing because Teresa's a climber, but basically traversing means to move or travel through an area. So it's the idea of people on a rock face, and not that me and you be on a rock face, but they're on a rock face and they'll say they free climb, which is crazy, but or if they like bang in the things and hook up the ropes or
Yep.
whatever. So they're trying to get through this side of a mountain, and sometimes they'll find like a bit of a cliff with maybe a tree and they can just rest, right? So I just had this picture while I was driving on Monday, I think it was, of our lives are like that so much, right? So anyways, I wrote I don't know if it's a poem. I don't know what I would call it, but I'm gonna read it. I just finished it.
Okay.
Can I do that? And then I'm gonna post it. I'm working on a background to put like a nice picture background in it, but here. So traverse, to move or travel through an area. That's just the beginning, the definition. Seasons change inside and out. Sometimes the journey feels up, down, sideways. Sometimes what we think takes a day can take a year. Feelings, not sure. Don't know why. Do I just give up? I'm alone. No, wait. Wait, I'm not alone. Do feelings matter? Do my feelings matter? Wait, wait. In the morning, I feel the fresh air on my face. Even though my eyes are closed, I can feel and I can see the sun. Nothing is for naught, and surely everything has a reason and a purpose. This includes my life, in capitals, my life. So I won't give up. I won't stop. I will press through. I am not alone. There's more love than needed for me on this journey. We traverse through this life, sometimes clinging to the rock, sometimes finding a ledge for a reprieve can change everything. Breathe, close your eyes, breathe again. You are alive. Be thankful. You got this. Really, you've got this.
Good. I like that. You got this. It's good.
Sometimes you have to let your feelings out. No,
But that's good.
yeah,
Inspired penmanship, right? Future song. Did you see? Hashtag future song.
Oh, there you go. No, it's not a song, it's a poem.
Okay.
I need to get
Poems are
I
good.
need to get a Brit with a real Brit voice to read it.
Oh, there you go.
David Attenborough or somebody. But
Yeah, right?
anyways, see in it what I think about, and me and you are busy, right? And probably a lot of us are busy, or sometimes we're busy being not busy, if that makes sense, right?
I get it. That's the way
And
vacations go.
and and sometimes this fresh air, sometimes this, like I love the idea of our senses, right? Sometimes the smell, like, hey, like you've done this a few times, hey, what are they cooking up there? It smells good, right? Sometimes our senses can be dulled in this cement world,
Right.
and even though we're part of it, we like it, and like all of the things that will suck our soul dry. You're the encourager, the pom poms. I was
Yeah.
telling somebody about you this week. Actually, one of my customers. I was saying, you know what? My sister cheers people on more than anybody else I know,
That's
and
awesome.
and he's an East Indian guy. Just found out his dad has cancer. And I said,
Jeez.
dude, I've been there. He's my customer. Like, customers are supposed to sell stuff, but I have partnerships and relationships, right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so this idea of like, take a breath, stop your car in the middle. If you got a 15-minute break, don't rush to grab food, maybe get food,
Yeah.
just slow your brain down, right? I just got back from the gym and I put on my nice shirt for the
I
broadcast.
noticed you do look good today.
I'm pretty professional.
There you go.
Um, my mind fights the gym, Michelle. My
Mhm.
mind, we're talking about boundaries and different things. And
Yeah.
that was your idea. And I was thinking about mental boundaries. So I'm probably going to go sideways. But I'm telling you, I can come up with every excuse in the sun to not be positive, to not eat right, not go to the gym, not, I can, like, I lie to myself, or I can, by the way, I can downplay my feelings, but what I wrote there, you don't want your feelings, you know, captivity of negativity or whatever. You
Yeah.
want to be careful. Like I think there's a place that, you know what, I'm really sad, but you know what? It's okay. I'm going to get through this.
Exactly.
So I got.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Hey,
And you know what?
see
It's
you next week. No joke.
yeah. Yeah. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming. Um, so it's so interesting when you talk about that because it's it's another habit. Being negative is a habit, right? That stinking thinking, it's a habit. It's, and it doesn't take just one time on it wouldn't be autocorrect because you're doing it on purpose. So it doesn't take just that one time because, and of course, when you're trying to change your thinking, you're really going against nature as well because it's our human nature to chase the fire truck and find out where the fire is, or think about worst case scenario in case we have to be in protective mode, right? So finding that fine line, there's nothing dangerous about the gym but in your mind, right? So rewiring that thinking so that you do get it and you start looking at positive results. That's where celebrating every accomplishment along the way, even if it's just showing up. I had a lady today, we celebrated, she walked 5 times this week. Do we care how far she walked? Nope, don't care. She could have walked
No.
from the front door to the back door. I didn't ask.
Yeah.
Right? But celebrating along the way that she got out. She, she made the effort to do that. So keeping it simple, where I'm sure there was a time even in her life where she wouldn't have thought of celebrating anything under maybe like 5K or something like that. So I think, that's important. But I think we need to really, in those moments, like just the fact that you've identified that is huge,
Yeah.
right? That, hey, I have a problem with this. And so figuring out how to retrain your brain, it's another thing we have to train,
Yeah.
right?
I think like that thing, like I said, I don't know. I get these things. I don't know why this word, like I knew what traversing meant, but I had to go look it up because sometimes
That's
I
good.
assume I know what I think it means.
Ah,
And and then I ponder that this is this way I'm wired. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, I want to think about that, right?
yeah.
And I love, and I had to look up the word reprieve because I wasn't sure. Again, like remember me to talk about perspective and perception. And it's not like I'm gonna be like so cut and dry, like because I think everything's fluid, right? We I was saying this to my daughter this week, who's having she's doing really good, but she had a tough time. Her other car died. She got like a friend sold her like a get her through the next year or
Sure.
so car,
A
and she
beater.
found out that it needs like as much as the other car. Anyways, it's just horrible, right?
Yeah.
So what I said to her, I said, you need a reprieve. And I said, here's the deal. And the youngest granddaughter is going to school, more than none. But
Okay.
I said, you just got to change one little thing today.
That's right.
And
That
and
big
it
picture
begins
is
with
so big.
this.
Yeah,
It begins with
exactly.
this. You got to tell yourself, I'm worth it.
Yeah.
I can do it. I've got people around me that will encourage me. And then if all I was going to tease you, if all I think about is walking this week, hey, maybe next week I'll maybe walk, do whatever.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah,
Just, that's step one, and then making a plan. But you're so right. It's so easy to get overwhelmed by the big stuff, or overwhelmed on self-judgment,
yeah,
instead of saying, you know what, and this is where you really have to keep it simple. If today I can do a little bit better than yesterday,
yeah,
and just one thing, I'm winning.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
It's so true. And this is where, and you know what, it's so deep. It can be limiting beliefs. It could be like thinking about you at the gym. It could be it was never part of your environment growing up. You
no,
never were, and I'm not saying this is you because I don't know, but like, that could be that it was never on your spectrum, and you always had maybe a negative influence. Like when I think of personal trainer, and I know this isn't accurate, but the first thought that comes to mind
yeah,
is me crying and somebody yelling at me. Like it's just, and like I might be in the fetal position. So that's automatically the first thing that I think of. Is it accurate? No. I know people who are personal trainers that like that, I changed the one guy's diapers. He wouldn't yell at me, but um it's just the way it's ingrained. A lot of that's probably from YouTube or funny videos or whatever, things like that. So getting through, and I think that's where maybe asking yourself the very first most powerful question, is what I'm thinking even true?
yeah. I
Right.
think just when you're saying that, part of me goes, and I'm just curious way. I was bugging my son, driving him to school today, or not today, it was Monday morning. So up at 6:30 in the morning, get him to school, get him on the bus. Then he takes a shuttle. Um, and he laughs at me because he's half asleep and I'm wide awake for some reason, coffee.
Yeah.
And I'm
Analyzing
going
the
like,
world.
don't you find it? Aren't you curious or find it interesting? Like, why do they call a dog a dog? Why do they do this and this? Why do they do that? Like to the point where he's going, okay, Dad, doesn't matter now, right? A dog is a dog. It's not a cat, whatever, right?
Right.
But but I was thinking when you're saying that, what you're just saying about the gym and that, I find it intriguing. Where where do we um This is probably nature nurture stuff,
It
nurture.
oh, totally is.
But where do we
Mhm.
come up with the thought that trainers or gym is horrible? And I can, using me, I can remember like in school, I wasn't a jock, but I was just fluky at sports, but I could play sports. I play hockey, stuff like that,
Sure.
right? I wasn't.
Yeah.
I played hockey. I got to play Maple Leaf Gardens. One of our
Whew.
teams in Scarborough got to play there. I couldn't skate backwards. I think I was 9 years old, right? Didn't matter, right? But for some reason, I don't remember where. I remember for some reason I felt like playing sports was fun. Running around the track sucked.
See, isn't that funny? What's that about?
Something influenced something influenced me.
That's right.
Was it a friend? Was it a bad teacher, like you said, or a trainer?
Yeah.
Was it
A couple
you
uncles
know?
sitting in the corner that were mocking the runners. Like, not, I'm not saying our uncles specifically, but in general, like, because that verbiage in the background, right? Even if it's, you know, and this isn't me, but like, oh, what a couple of sissies, or oh,
Yep.
he runs like a girl. Oh my gosh, right? Like things like that. It plants the seed years later. So a lot of times you don't even remember it, but it's in there so deep. There's definitely something, especially that example where it's comparative sports. Fascinating, isn't
Yeah.
it?
See, I grew up. So Michelle and I say this quite often. We're sisters, brothers and sisters for life. Hashtag for life.
Hashtag for
Mental wellness for life. We're both mentally no. Anyways, um,
a bit.
I grew up. I had an issue with my legs, and so I had to have surgery
Okay.
eventually on my legs. But I walked on my tiptoes as a kid, and
Hmm.
so as a young boy, getting into now school, and my uncles,
Yeah.
um, I was called tiptoes. I was
Mm.
called a faggot.
Yeah.
All of these type of things, right? And picked on, right?
Yeah.
And when it happens from people, like your uncle, that now when you're that young, it doesn't make you feel good, but you don't have like your brain isn't even formed, in my opinion, enough to understand. There could be some kids, but we don't understand. We don't have the level of understanding, right? And
That's right.
so all I know for me is how you feel, right? And like you said, if somebody goes, if somebody of influence, like if dad back in our day, but our parents,
Of
that
course. Yeah.
children should be seen, not heard, or
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
the woman, you don't talk back to the man, he's the king of the house, right?
That's
So
right.
these are generationally passed down through history.
Yeah.
But here's the good news. So this gets back to us and boundaries and our thinking, that right.
Yeah.
But the
Change.
good news, so the bad news going, holy crap, like this is like, but if we look through history is beautiful. I mean, some history is tough, but we have the power and the ability to change.
Yeah.
We
Exactly.
want to be talking about boundaries. We want to be setting. We have the power and the ability to, and we ask for the strength, or we get people around us to support us to change our trajectory. Like if you're going stinking thinking, and I was talking to somebody today, says everything's negative. I was having almost a headache, and
Yeah.
I was driving, I was on the phone, and I said, okay, let's take a second, stop. Tell me something positive that happened to you today, besides everything that was crappy. Because you talk about those habits we create,
That's
you
right.
get this rut in your brain, and you're like, who was the guy on Winnie the Pooh? Um,
Eeyore.
Eeyore. Oh,
Oh
nothing goes
boy.
right. I don't
Just the whole
know.
body language, right? Look at how you change in that moment. And
Me?
yeah, just even in that impersonating of him. But it's so like when you're in that moment, this is where we need to trust our body and sort of circling back a smidgen to the whole energy thing. But don't you find it so draining? Especially when you're not around it. Like you've been working on yourself for a long time. You're not perfect. You're never going to be, full disclaimer, but you've been practicing. So, and this is where I think the rubber meets the road. Reads the road? No, it doesn't. Meets the road. So, in those moments, that's where you notice that there's a shift. That's where you notice because it's exhausting. whether it's negativity, drama, and gossip, right? And they're all three things that are hard to train yourself. And so what's Tina doing? Like whatever, right?
Yeah.
Not
Did you
specific.
did you hear? Did you hear?
Did you hear about Tammy? Like,
Yeah.
right? Or whatever. And these are our siblings, by the way. But like it's so addicting. And I mean, one of the things that I found fascinating, this is years ago. I worked in a hotel dining room and we were right outside the front desk. I knew things through gossip about people I'd never met because they would come and sleep with other people. I don't know who I'm looking for. They come and sleep with nobody's here, but they come and sleep with other people, and then we knew. So it'd be like, "Did you hear about so and so? She's sleeping with the cop," or whatever
Yeah,
the
yeah.
story was. And it was for me that was an aha moment. Why do I know somebody's most personal business and they don't know me? I've never had a conversation. I've seen them go in, and honestly, do we really know? Like we're probably right. There's a bed in the room, but did we really know? For all we know, they might be signing a, I don't know, a something attorney, or I don't know, like anything. But it's so interesting, but you're so drawn to it. It takes the pressure off looking at your own life, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. But when you're away, when you remove yourself from those things, then you like sometimes I literally feel like I could hurl, I could vomit. And it's not, if it's a combination of all those things, I'm just like, my body tells me I just need to politely remove myself because it's heavy, it's sluggish, it gives me brain fog, and I just feel like I don't want to participate. And then where that boundary comes in, do I want to open up and explain myself to these people? Do I just want to politely remove myself? Do you know what I mean? This is where it can get interesting because some people you should really explain your boundaries,
Yeah.
right? And then boundaries, it's such an interesting thing because it could be boundaries emotionally, it could be with
Yeah.
people in your life. I've been thinking actually about boundaries with Christmas, with spending,
Yeah.
right? That's something I personally have been looking at. Um, and it's so funny because I was in a meeting today and I was saying to somebody, you know, I have all these grandchildren and kids, but I mean it's the little people, right? And we're not religious, so we don't do church over the holidays or anything like that. So it's strictly because the calendar and everybody tells me there's something, like just saying. So which already makes me push back a little bit because because I like to buy. But I was saying to her, if I ask Xavier or Alice next year, or like any time what I bought them for Christmas last year, are they going to remember?
Yeah.
They have no idea. No idea. So I like to usually focus on memories more than gifts. And I'm really going to revisit that and more games this year, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because, when you think about how, and again, we can just be going along and it's like being on a walking sidewalk where all this stuff's just coming at you and you have to make some decisions because are you going to break the bank? Like, right? Like, I think everybody's in, no matter how financially stable you are, we're all feeling somewhat of a pinch. So, maybe your relationships are fine, but you want to think about some other boundaries, right?
Well, and here's kind of, to me, here's kind of where I'll use my son's get my gaming talk. This is about leveling up, right?
Oh,
So,
got it.
so you have people, and so I'll use Ethan, my son, right? So he wants to be a scientist. So he had to do this a thing, and then I'll bring it to what we're talking about, boundaries and just understanding. To me, understanding is crucial. If you don't understand yourself, you don't have to be a scientist, but you should figure out why you react to this. Like using what you
That's
said
right.
about Christmas for some
Yep.
people. Why do you have to go into debt? Or why is it an issue with celebrating faith-based or not faith, and we don't have to get like have to
No,
go
no,
get crazy, right?
that's right.
But so Ethan had to make this popsicle for engineering had to make him and his two friends, team of three, had to make this popsicle and only using popsicle and glue. Could only be so many a weight of popsicles and
Yep.
only could be a certain type of glue,
Sure.
and it had to be inside a certain measurement of feet, like a square box, whatever it was. And
Yep.
then it was they were making the boom that went out, and it had to hold to beginning with half a pound.
Okay.
And then those went out. So I brought him to school this morning, and he said, he goes like these things we thought would work didn't work. So his didn't crash the ground, but him and his buddies sunk low, so they didn't go to the next round, right?
Right.
And so
right.
for him, just the way I'm wired, I go, so what do you think for next time? What do you think? He goes, well, A, B, C, D, right? And it's early in the morning, so I'm, I've been up for longer than him, right?
Sure.
But in it, so here's a couple things I wrote. So exactly what you're saying. So if you want to get unstuck, so first of all, boundaries, people can put boundaries around them for, in my opinion, the wrong reason. People can
Absolutely.
can isolate because they don't want to deal with their stuff. It's too painful. And it's easy to close, especially relationships, close them, right? Now, there's obviously a place with unhealthy relationships, right? But so what I wrote down when you were speaking, my little notepad that I always have, I wrote down, so if we're thinking about boundaries, I always think about who, what, why. Like who, what, why, right?
Yeah.
And I may have a thing I need to do this boundary first, and then I think about who, what, why. Or actually, if I'm being honest, I try to remind myself to go, okay, if I want a boundary with who, why do I want a boundary? They're negative all the time. Okay, is it family or somebody close? Yes. So what's important? Well, probably communication. Should I communicate in a way that I want them to understand my boundary, but I don't want them to be hurt?
Right. Or personally,
Yeah,
exactly.
because there's some people that say, hey, this is my boundary in line, like, sorry, screw you, I won't put my finger up anyways, right? But here's the other thing with boundaries, like, because some people will all of a sudden, young or old, can go, okay, that's it, I need a break from you, I need a timeout. And so I'm going to say relationships, and like we can't go back and change all of our lives, relationships, parents, siblings,
That's
partners, whatever, right? But I'm guessing for majority of us that are listening to this or watch it later, or us or whoever, that if we look back from now, we see, you know what, I didn't know how. I needed a boundary. I needed to feel I'm not going to just implode or go crazy.
That's right.
But if I look, because this is the privilege of getting older in time, if you're willing to be a life learner, we can look back now going, I'm not doing the hard boundaries like with exes and stuff like that, leave that alone, right? But all of a sudden they go, you know what, that person ABC, right? You shared something near the beginning when we started, was about a friend of yours, that very good friend of yours, that it took about a year for her to tell you something she was hurt about. Was due with water or something, I can't remember. It was a very good friend of yours when you were younger.
No, it was something she'd said that I didn't even remember that she said.
Oh, right.
That's what it was.
And then she apologized a year later or something,
And
right?
20 years later.
Oh, 20. Okay.
20. And I was like, what? I don't even know. But I think it depends on the relationship. And I think it's also a good reminder that, like it or not, you have to really put yourself in the other person's shoes.
Yeah.
Because and then again, of course, pick your battles. There's some people that we spend way too much working on those relationships, whether it's out of guilt or, your deceased parent made you promise to, or like something, or they're like a bad habit, right? So those ones, you really you just have to evaluate and take into consideration. But we can't assume anybody can read our mind. So sometimes what happens is we let it just irks. It's like getting stabbed with a fork. You're not going to die, but you're going to bleed and it's going to hurt, right? So analogies by Michelle. So so when you think of that, if they have no idea, so you wait until you're in an environment that you're hangry, right? You're tired, you're hungry, whatever. And then that one person says that one thing that just breaks the camel's back. You completely snap, but you've tolerated it for all that time. They didn't see it coming. So whose fault is that? You know what I mean? So, and it's not like a fault thing, but those are all the dynamics of every relationship you have. So, right? So, I mean, I think you really going back to your, who, what, where, why, thinking about what your contribution is, because at the end of the day, we get what we tolerate.
Yeah.
So, if you're going to, uh, just for an example, and I don't mean this to you, but if you're going to like stay in a complicated relationship, but you know that it's complicated, then maybe you need to evaluate it and see if that aligns with where you want to be in the future. Or because you see so many people do that, where they keep going back to the same watering hole, if you will. But there's other great watering holes that know that you're in that watering hole. This is probably the weirdest analogy ever. But you know what I mean, right? It's because I've had that conversation with young men, saying like, you're wasting a lot of time going back to this complicated relationship that's not, you're just treading water, or you're getting water splashed in your face. And meanwhile, there's lots of other people that are around, ready, willing, and able, not complicated or without baggage or whatever. And so figuring it out, is it worth it? Do you want to put the effort in? Is the other person putting an equal effort? Like, if you're my friend, I should be able to say to you, you know what? It's this is how I feel. This is what, that when you say that thing, or when you don't believe me when I say that I went to the gym and you laugh at me every time, that makes me feel like whatever. I need you to support me. And if they're not on board, then that's where you make your next decision. But maybe they had no idea. Maybe when you are laughing with them, they think you were really laughing, but you really weren't.
Yeah, and you know what? Oh my word, we may have to do this for another 2 or 3 years because everything you just said is so complicated, right? So use for an example like technology, right? So
Oh,
I'm not a techie person. I don't think you are that much either, right?
I
Like
know what
we
I
probably
know.
know our basic, right?
That's right.
If you and me were to take our phones apart, here's my phone. This is a Google Pixel, whatever, right? So it's a not the newest one, but it's a newer one, right? Takes great pictures because it's Google,
Oh,
blah blah,
nice.
right?
Yep.
If I open it up with these microchips and the way microchips are now compared to 2 years and 5 years and 10 years and 20 years, right? I don't, it's too complicated for me, right? And
Mhm.
here's the thing, I think, and I'm going to use an example in my life because transparent, right? I think we sometimes we don't want to know what's under the hood, or we don't want to,
That's right.
we just kind of, we know we're sad, we're hurt, we're whatever, and I'm going to medicate, avoid, all these type of things, right? And then somehow we get this courage or strength. Usually we're at a tipping point, and to somebody we even care about, we we go off because you just said, like, if we have a friend, like, and it's how we communicate. So there's so many, I mean, that's a, Michelle, a lot of what I do, like with the people that I work with, so not the coffee people, well, them
Yep.
too, they get free counseling because,
Sure.
not all the time, right? But you know what it is, right? we we have to find, understand ourselves,
Yep.
and want to understand enough. You don't have to be a brain surgeon, right? If you don't need, if you don't find out why you tick to some degree, you're gonna you're gonna get tipped and offended and all of these, well, whatever current languages are. So
Yep.
again, we use, for people, we use you, but people who have been through, partners, and all of a sudden go, oh, I'm in love, blah blah blah, and all of a sudden go, oh man, this is like crappy, this is a mean person, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm going to use me, right? So part of, and this is for me, and if I get in trouble for this, whatever, I don't care. Well, I do care, but I don't care, right?
You're
So for me, where I'm at now, I'm in a complicated relationship, like Michelle said. Even she literally talk about me, I'm talking about me, right?
Right.
So talking about boundaries, right? So I realized several weeks ago that this relationship with me and my ex-wife, that we're separated, but we hang out, besties, blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, because I'm a sensor feeler, by the
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
all of a sudden I just realized like things that were just normal were different. And so what I do for me is, if all of a sudden, if I like all of a sudden there's not a response, like not in a needy way, but all of a sudden you're used to Al doing, like if you do this, he does this. Like,
Right.
it's
Right.
common, right? And then all of a sudden it happens. You go, okay, put it there. All of a sudden, again, all of a sudden you go, well, I feel this distance. What's this
Yeah.
distance, right? And so in every relationship, and even at work, and all of a sudden, I mean, work depends what you think you can tell your boss, right?
Sure.
But all of a sudden, this person, because they are feeling something different, maybe they're ready to move on or hurt, whatever, or mad at
They're
you or
fixing
frustrated with it, right?
themselves on their downtime, right?
Yeah. And so for me, learning this thing of, facing the dragon type of thing, going, okay, I'm just checking to see like what's going on, right? And and so in my situation with this person, um, you know, they're they've just shifted, and there's lots of confusion. Like it's very
Course.
complicated, my situation, right?
Right.
And so I have to be careful in this idea of boundaries. And I'm being honest, I waffle. I'm
Do
like, that's it. That's it. I'm going on plenty of old fish. No joking. I'm teasing. Plenty of the old fish in the very deep seas. No, I've never done that. It'd be weird, right?
well,
But
we know
see,
someone that knows how.
I have to have an honest relationship with it. So for me, in this relationship that has gotten complicated for many reasons, um, I have to look at myself, going, okay, if I'm feeling this, why? I'm not going to make an assumption. I'm going to ask. I'm
Yeah,
not going to.
good.
I don't want somebody to. I don't want to, as a sales guy, talk them into
That's right.
to what I
Totally.
want.
Yep.
But I have to be honest with myself, right? And so I think when we become honest with ourselves and understanding, like for me, and I've said this, and this kind of is not an issue, but it's in there. I've said, like, I don't want to be alone for the rest of my life. Well, that doesn't mean tomorrow, but it
Right.
means that as I get older, it may be living with my kids. I don't want to live in a place alone by myself with the TV.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
And
Absolutely.
that doesn't mean I'm needy. That's owning my stuff, right? Now, also saying the same thing, being in a relationship for 30,
Oh, you better
92,
know.
34
Better
years, I
know.
think Teresa and I were married, 34, like 32 living together. We're
Yeah.
separated, but anyways, 34 years, we'll say, right?
Yeah.
To think about that, and then all of a sudden, me and her laughed about this over the years, right? To think about dating, scary, 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 right? To
Oh,
think about at this age,
absolutely.
it's and it's not that we think we're bad or not. See, here's the challenge, the
It's
rub.
just different.
You're used to this,
That's right.
and and I have a big question that we'll wrestle with boundaries, right? You you're used to this, and that saying, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, blah blah blah, right?
Exactly.
Now, in saying all this, if you're in an emotional, mental, physical, sexual abusive relationship, narcissistic, whatever, you need to first talk to people, get help, get professional help, and
Yeah.
then you have to navigate, because usually, and 99.9% of those are men, to be honest.
Yeah.
Some women these days, but
Yep.
mostly men. And what we'll do is we'll shut down, not deal with it, not deal with it,
Yep.
and then we blow up or we run away, and we still haven't dealt
Exactly.
with it, right? But
Right.
here's the thing I was going to throw at here, just rabbit trail, but I want your thoughts.
Okay.
And this is another 2-3 year topic. Love. I'm not talking about the ooey gooey. I opened up the Oreo cookie. Look at that, creamy inside. But but what happens, like understanding, um, like learning to understand yourself, like I know for me, so I just know this for me, Michelle, and it doesn't mean like I'm not an idiot and needy, whatever, right? If I love someone, I probably will do whatever I can do. It doesn't mean I'm going to stay on the sidelines forever. I'm not saying that, right?
No, no, no,
But,
right,
and I haven't experienced what a lot of other people have experienced. Like
right,
I've had some hard parts in my marriage, but it's not been a horrible marriage,
right.
right? And I was thinking about that. I was thinking like, mom will never watch this, so I can say this. And if one of our siblings tell on me, I don't care. I'll deal with it.
I'll deny it
Um,
for you.
you know what? I remind myself every day, Michelle, when I see mom, whatever, half the time she annoys me. She's getting older. She's forgetful. She does she does things on her computer that if she would just wait for me, it takes me like 5 steps to fix her mistakes. But you know what? I remind myself, said, you know what? There's going to be a day, and she's not going to be here.
Yeah,
And the things that are annoying with all like we all annoy each other to some degree, right? So this thing
sure.
about love, so for you, so and I don't even know how to ask you this. So in your situation, because your kids and grandkids, you love them, but you can't like there's no separation. They're your kids and grandkids, right?
That's right.
Even if somebody, I have a friend whose son's I have somebody I know whose son's in jail for manslaughter, killed somebody,
Wow.
and that's this woman's little boy,
Oh, of course.
right?
That's right. You might not
She
love what
loves
they did,
she
but
loves
it's
him.
for your child, of course.
Yeah. So when you put in like boundaries, and if it's somebody who we love, it could be a family member, it could be
Yeah,
a partner, could be siblings.
yeah,
This ambiguous thing called love confuses it or causes flux in it because say you and me, say you're touchy feely and I'm like Sergeant Tom, right?
right.
We have as siblings, I go, well, Michelle, you know what? You talk too much. You need to stop talking as much. And I'm going to put a timer on you. And I'm picking, saying you're the feeler, right? And you
Sure.
go, inside, you're going, I'm really hurt by that,
Right.
right? So in love, maybe is the wrong one, but you said something earlier. You have to understand. You have to put yourself in that person's place because if there's an important relationship, like for you, I don't know this, are with all of your children. I'm thinking the boys older, like because I wasn't there, right? They is Al the father or somebody else? Okay.
Right.
Do they see are they in touch with that person or no?
So they have different, the boys have a dad,
Right.
but uh they haven't spoke to him in many, many, many years. But he was in and out of jail, and he
Right.
was in a mental institution for the criminally insane.
Right.
True story. So no, not for them. But Nicole sees her dad a bit, but she just finished like 3 years. She didn't talk to him. Oh
Yeah.
my God, actually longer than that. Gemma's 7, probably close to 7 years. And they just reconnected, but she set some serious boundaries.
Yeah.
So for
See,
her own prevention, right? Yeah.
so good, so good.
Yeah.
See,
But
that's
it's
the
hard.
thing. Like you get somebody. I was talking to somebody about this. I was talking to mom about this a while ago. But I was talking about this. You're in a relationship. There's horrid physical abuse, especially back
Yep.
in mom's day, and you know that in the culture that you're in, the society, this is like French Canadian, right?
Yep.
You don't divorce and you
Oh,
don't complain, even though you could. But in your brain, like same as with, like we've said this here a few times, mom had like 7 kids by this time of 24, I think. She wasn't a practicing Catholic, but because she is French Canadian Catholic, how dare you use birth control? Well, she wasn't practicing. I tease her about this like once in a while, right?
right.
Doesn't make sense to me, right? So anyways, but I wasn't in that moment, right? So all I remember, I'm going to use abuse. It's a tough one, but talking about boundaries, right? All of a sudden you have somebody who's violent, who knows why they're violent, what their issues are, maybe they don't know. And then what they end up doing is they end up, say they're drinking at night, they're abusive, they wake up in the morning, they cycle back and they're so sorry. And so this is a true story with mom. In the morning, got a wet cloth and taking care of the bruises they caused the night before. Yep. Well, forgetting love, that's a bad situation. You get out of that, right?
Right.
And so this thing about love, the good, there's good about love, our feelings of love. Does Al tell you he loves you all the time?
No.
Do you tell him you love him?
More than he does, but not a lot. But it's interesting because I wasn't raised with that, and I wasn't raised with huggers. So, but what I did used to get very regular was, I know I don't say it very much, but you know that I do, right? This is from my parents. And I'd be like, yeah, I do. Even my mom and I hadn't spoken for 5 years when she died. I saw her on her deathbed. As sure as I know, even through those 5 years, she had some messed up stuff, whatever. I take my part, but I still never doubted she loved me. It was just weird and complicated. And it was for my own that I decided to back away. That was me setting boundaries, right?
And when you don't know, and see all of these, remember I said earlier, like looking under the hood, like if you're not, I'm wired different in a way. Like I'm just so intrigued at this age, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden, like you think of all that. So again, you go back in history, and I believe back in coming out of the war, so early, say the 1920s, and like all of these things, parents are in war, the men are in war, and this and coming from Europe, and not this, you're not getting paternal affirmation. So not even touch, words. Right. And so what happens is we try to navigate. So back then there wasn't as much touchy feely. Like I remember Grandma Jean, so with mom's mom, right? And I love her because I just know her, but I don't love her because she was good or bad. She wasn't. She was tough old cookie. But I know her story. 13 kids,
right?
Taking care of the kids and having to work at the Ottawa Richelieu Hotel, Richelieu, whatever it is, and Grandpa, who I only knew, he died when I was 3, worked but was a drinker. And he wasn't an abuser, right? So all of a sudden you start understanding, like for me, some of the men I'm working with, you're in a fractured, broken, like it's trying to get a car off the starting line of a race, and you're missing a wheel, and you're missing.
There's so many factors.
Yeah, but using you, so which is beautiful. You have and I knew this already. Even if you can tell me, being raised by English people, I've been around a lot of English people. They're communicating affirmation, even though they love you, and within reason, is just, it's their kind of paradigm, right? But here's Michelle, and probably having your kids, being a mother. I'm not a mother, but seeing my kids being born shifted me and changed me, and like, not that I was a bad person, but changed my value system of life,
right?
Seeing life, right? But here's Michelle and Nicole, who wasn't raised with this affirmational love.
So funny, isn't it?
And you go across Canada freely giving.
I know. That's crossed my mind. And I remember one time I was in the mall with my mom, and so this is my adopted mom, right? Tom and I share a mom, and this is my adopted mom. So we're in the mall and we're walking through the mall, and I see somebody I used to work with. And I think my mom was talking to somebody or whatever. My parents knew a lot of people. So she's like chatting with somebody, and I see, I don't know, Natalie or somebody, I can't remember. And I go walking across the mall, and she puts her arms out. We give each other a big hug. And I remember never swore, but if there was ever a time she had the what the F face, it, it was then. And I remember thinking, I'm, I broke away from the cocoon. I'm just, and we still never got that, I didn't start hugging her. I know it sounds weird. I didn't, and my sibling, like my adopted brothers, right? Because I have two brothers as well. We did never start doing that or anything, but it was just a me thing. But it was so outside of our family norm. Like I mean, when we were kids, we hugged. But as soon as you got a certain age, it was like, get off my lap.
Yeah.
Right.
And in it, because we've talked about this before, there's seasons. We're talking about boundaries. Gwen, I'm going to ask a question for you too in a minute because I love your input here. But here's the thing: is we like I'm learning more and more about being fluid. So things that kind of crest me in emotion, and I feel like just giving up. If I could take a breath, whatever, then it's like the ocean that comes in, and then it goes out, right? And so
Exactly.
I'm learning. I want to be patient, but we have seasons where I'm thinking for me, but I think it's pretty common. Like we had seasons when Emily was young, and my daughter, oh my word, she'll kill me because she does watch this sometimes. When Emily was,
Oh,
I'm gonna
good. I'm
find
glad she does. Sorry.
Emily. I'll have to show you. I'll have to share. I think it's a cassette tape or something, or no, it's a video, but the old camcorders. But I have it somewhere. I'll share with you. And she's playing on the slide. She's both of our kids are like only children because of the age difference, right?
Oh, 100%.
And and Emily, when she was like 6, she talked like she smoked a pack of smokes, and she was an old blues singer. And she's doing this thing on the slide. She's going, danger, danger. She's playing with her doll stuff, right? So it
Funny.
warms her heart. But for our daughters, and same as with you or the grandkids, and then when they get older, there's seasons of how we affirm and encourage and build into, speak truth in life, which we have
That's
the
right.
power to do that, right?
Yep.
So back in the day, with like you said, you knew your parents loved you, but
Right.
it wasn't manifested, it wasn't shown, right?
Right. Exactly. Like it was shown in different ways.
Yeah.
It was showing by buying me a nice stereo system, baking every night. My mom used to bake. Like my dad worked full time, and then my mom got a job when I went into, because it was a different time, different economics. So my dad worked full time, and so he was the breadwinner. And then my mom, when I went to school full time, she got a part-time job at Sears, and that was her spending money. But like she would bake, and she would show love in other ways. She would sew. She sewed all my clothes. Even my
Yeah.
Barbies had matching clothes.
Yeah.
Hated every minute of it. But I love it now, right? Thinking back. But those were the ways that you knew, as opposed to the verbiage, because sometimes the verbiage is empty, right?
Or
Or
even like you think of the old, like the Waltons, good night, John Boy, kiss on the
yeah,
forehead, right? So,
right,
but there was this really, especially coming from our European background,
right.
there was a disconnect, but it. I mean, I'm sure there was families that weren't like that. It's a joke about the French people. Oh, amore, whatever, right? But there's this thing about through history, like you look at different tribes, like there's certain tribes, say in Africa or in South America, that are still tribal, and some of these tribes will be exactly the way we were hundreds of years ago,
Oh,
where the men went to
absolutely.
work, the women raised the kids, type of thing,
Yep.
right?
Well,
And
that's
the
right.
way the man would affirm his son was when he'd be old enough to go out on the hunt, type thing, whatever, right?
Right.
And but here's the thing for Gwen, if you're still here, Gwen. So Gwen said setting boundaries is a must, especially for your sanity. So I agree with that. And you shared
Yeah.
something earlier. Let me hit the right mouse. Got two computers and two mouses. You said the hardest thing I ever did was putting up boundaries with people. So 100%. Here's I love that. It's so important when I counsel people, even because I'm doing mostly guys, and some of these guys are the problem. Some of these guys are narcissistic. They don't
Absolutely.
even know it.
Yep.
So I tell them, I said, I'm going to tell you for your own sanity and sake, for your own to be well. I'm going to tell you how to set a boundary because they're, you know, what their boundaries would be ghosting, and then not haunting. What's the other word? Ghosting. What's the opposite of ghosting? Um, like the creepers do. What are the people that like
Like a
follow
peeping
you
Tom,
everywhere? People that
stalker,
follow you, stalker. Yeah.
stalker,
So you
stalker.
got ghosting and stalker, right? And they
Yeah.
don't have a happy middle. Say, you know what? Have a good conversation, listen, be honest, right? So Gwen, your question was, and I'm going to give an example. Then I'm going to ask a question. You could type it in. Michelle can share, right? So you guys have heard of this, I believe. I was raised a city boy. I thought I didn't know ground beef came from a cow until I was like
Oh,
12.
you
I didn't.
told
I
us
was never in
that.
a farm. I just saw it in the
Hilarious.
store,
Yep.
right? So what I do know is that with farmers, what some farmers will do is they will put an electric fence, right?
Right.
And they put an electric fence. So when the cows would wander, if they rubbed up to the electric fence, it was just enough shock to say, hey, get back, get back.
That's right.
After a while,
Yep.
they would take down the fence, but the cow knew now, or
Right.
whatever animal, not to go, right?
Right.
So what Gwen's question is, setting boundaries is a must. So to me, setting boundaries, and it's probably a must, and having good boundaries for yourself is probably good, right? But can you be healthy without, for our own sanity, boundaries? Do we need the formal component, like a boundary may be a truth teller without hurting people's feelings? I'm just going to be honest,
Yeah.
and
Right.
my boundaries, I'm not going to be dishonest, right?
Right. Right.
But I do. There's books. Oh my word! In the last 20 years, I think I've seen dozens of books on boundaries. It's like the Venus and Mars thing. All of a sudden, like you want to write a book, like 20 years ago, you wrote it on boundaries. Right?
Brene Brown. She's got lots of stuff.
And and
Absolutely.
and here, so here's what I think. So Gwen, if you have any more comments, I appreciate it. Boundaries for our sanity is really important, but I believe sometimes once we begin to know ourselves, then we don't have to set a boundary, because let's say it's a relational boundary, say you're in a very difficult relationship. I'm teaching my daughter this, I'm trying to get her to get therapy, talk to a therapist, not just a dad, right? Even though I'm free, but for her, right? But anyways, but I tell her, you're unless you kind of deal with this, you're going to bring this into the next relationship, because you're going to meet a nice guy.
Right.
He's going to trigger you, and it's
That's
not that he's
right.
a jerk. Something will bring you back,
Something
and you're
familiar.
going to shut down or do this or respond, right? Not that you'll be perfect, right? So I believe boundaries, as we learn to be honest with ourselves when we're on this journey of healing,
Yeah.
mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever all that looks like, then I think those boundaries come down, because in a way our truth telling to ourselves and to others, I don't want to say it becomes a boundary. Maybe I can make that work. I don't think I have to, but I don't have to get to a point where I have to make a boundary. Does that make sense?
It does. Well, and I think, it's such a deep thing because the first question is, who do I need to make the boundary on, me or on the other person? Because maybe,
Why?
right? So maybe it's, yeah, but maybe it's something like learning to speak up for yourself, learning not to, maybe the boundary is I'm not going to take any insults anymore or whatever. Gwen did put in the chat. I am flexible in my
I love it.
boundaries.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Gwen.
it's so important. It really is. And she's right. You grow as a person too. So, because sometimes it gets to that old common denominator thing, right? Like, why am I so mad at you, for an example, when I let all my siblings treat me this way, but I'm closer to you? Do you like, so maybe the boundary doesn't need to be on you specifically, it needs to be on how I'm going to respond or what I'm going to tolerate or I'm going to share more because I know you're not a mind reader. So I think it's like, is it a boundary on yourself? You want to apply to everybody. If it's a boundary on other people, then just using Gwen for an example. So I'd have to look at, well, what's all about Gwen? Like, if Gwen's an important person I want to keep in my life, but I want to set some boundaries because say she doesn't support me. Gwen's a terrible example because she's not who I'm talking about at all, but just to use the name. So, so is that what it is? And then, you get treated the way you allow. So have I let her, like, is she like, so going back to the British, very curt and direct, right? Like, exactly. And my parents were older British. So my mom was born in 1933. So when you think of all that, and this is actually using her for an example. This is part of where forgiveness came for me,
Yeah.
was real, and of self and her, was realizing she was born in 1933. She left her country to where she knew nobody out of love for my dad. She adopted me out of love for my, like, all those different variables. And then that's where, for lack of another way, it like softened my heart. And it also made me realize different conflicts we had were never really about me. It's not all about Michelle all the time,
Yeah.
even though I wore the brunt of it. At the same time, it was because she was coming from this place. Like, I can't imagine being displaced with two children going to an unknown country, where like her parents died while she was here, the only girl. So when you turn around, and we talked about that another time as a topic, just putting yourself in the other person's shoes, and then
Yeah.
again obviously extending the olive branch to, you know Gwen, I know you don't know, we've been friends for 11 million years, but when you do this, I feel like this. Or sometimes it is just a matter of making yourself less available, or not putting you, because there's some people that treat you differently in when they're with different people,
Yeah. Well, let me
right?
let me throw some thoughts out
Throw
because
some
we're over
thoughts.
time again, but who cares? I'm gonna throw
Are
some
we?
thoughts out, right?
Wow.
So here's what I think. This is just Tom's pondering, as Gwen says, the older we get, right? So
Yep.
here's what I'm learning and what I believe, right? Which can shift is boundaries that boundaries we should consider in our lives are is for your own well-being,
Yep.
is set boundaries for work,
Yep.
set boundaries, know your body and yourself, set boundaries of what you put in your body, physically, mentally,
Yes.
emotionally.
That's
But
right.
so learning to set boundaries for yourself is just really important, right? And some of that can be, if I'm around people that we this is terrible, this is a work thing. It was these guys I worked with years ago. One was a Greek guy. He goes, oh, I got PETA accounts. I go, what's PETA? Pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, I knew. Okay,
We have people that
yeah.
drain us, and so learning to balance, right? But here's what I believe, right? I believe the more I'm honest with myself, and I'm learning, I use the word truth telling or whatever, resetting, whatever, I find that the people that are in my life, I don't have to set boundaries because I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not insecure. I'm not hiding. I'm not aggressive. I'm compassionate.
Yeah.
If I'm touchy feely, I am. Like, I'll give people a hug. Like Gwen, I don't know. Like, if I ever get out to see Michelle, and if I saw you, I would always ask permission. But I'm like, I have customers. I have like these East Indian customers of mine that come give me a hug, like these Muslim dudes.
Oh, I love it.
And
That's
I
right.
love it. And they go, my dad never, you're like my dad, but he never hugged me or whatever. So I just laugh. I go, okay, so then I'm humorous. You're
Right.
old, right? So,
That's
so
right.
let me put a few things. So when we decided on Monday, whatever, I told Michelle something to talk about, but I forgot now. I'll look it up. But here's the idea of boundaries. So the purpose of a boundary is to walk in freedom. It can be freedom of stress,
Mm.
freedom of self care, right?
Yeah.
So we set a boundary. If it's a boundary with people that have been neglectful, abusive, whatever, and part of it is, I believe, we don't know ourselves, right? So here's a few things I wrote down. I wrote this down. This is because this is how cool I am. Well, I'm not that cool, but kind of
Are
cool.
you? I can hardly wait to find out.
Yeah, I'm cool like Musk.
Whipped cream.
Hashtag.
Oh,
And what I said earlier to you, as you were talking about your parents and that, is I was going to put hashtag. You know what you know.
that's right.
If we like it or not, we're experiential people, and experiential doesn't need to be emotional people. We're experienced, and what happens is, like all through history, we um, are the history of man is through different cultures and societies has been passed on by story, by hieroglyphics, by
Right.
sheets on papyrus, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So we've heard we all of this thing about humanity from the caveman. I just was watching a Jack Black. He cracks me up. He annoys me, but called Year One. He's a
Oh,
caveman.
yeah. That's, yeah. Oh my.
It's like really, really dumb, right?
Yeah.
But
Like
here's the thing,
airplane
right?
mode.
So we can evolve,
Yep.
and once we learn our values, then we have the ability to change if we want to change. If we don't, then we'll end up. But here's what I wrote down. So we need to let go of preconceived thoughts and notions about your current reality.
I like that. Did I freeze or did he freeze?
I
Hi, did I freeze or did you?
Well, maybe you froze on me and I froze on you.
Oh my
My
word.
thing, something just came up here, says I am unstable.
Oh, it's you then.
Yeah.
Ah.
But anyway, so like I said, we need to let go of preconceived thoughts and notions about your current reality. We can have an effect on ourselves, and
No.
I don't believe like we change the universe, but we change the universe within, right?
Right.
I froze.
actually
Thanks,
do.
man. I'm cold out here. We need to reset our heart and mind. And here's the thing: is if we've been through abuse, neglect, or whatever we have, that's why I was joking with you, Michelle. Raised by Brits, I lived in England for a year. I know how cold. I know why they drink 10 cups of tea there. They're cold. That island
Yep.
is cold.
Rainy,
But
wet.
they're incredible people. But there's this promptness of not showing how you feel. You know what I mean,
Right.
right?
That's right.
And so we have to displace that, because if you need if you need touch, like I think all of our kids and grandkids for sure need touch. They
Right.
need to be affirmed. Hey, good. Like we don't understand the power of touch, because in our culture, touch is turned evil and really dark. We have the power to affirm with our words and our lips. So begin with us, right? So
Right.
need to reset our hearts and minds, settle down. I said I had a really tough week, really 10 days. My mind, like losing sleep, my mind, and then I have to go, okay, Tom, shut
That's
up.
right.
Right?
Distract.
The idea of being still, we're not good at that, because when our heart's racing and people are offending us or hurting us or frustrating us, take a breath, because sometimes just dealing with them is very surface. When I had issues a little while ago with my white blood cell count really high for
Yep.
knock my
You
phone.
okay? You breaking
I
things over there?
My body is reacting to something, right?
Right.
But they're trying to figure out why. So part of it is, if I know that these things, like Gwen said about putting boundaries, the boundaries, I believe, are like those electrical fences we put up, and we put them up because we're trying to figure ourselves. We're going, you know what? I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to take that communication to me anymore. That's not respectful. That's not
Right.
right. But here, rabbit trail with this real quick. My uncles, who called me tippy toes, would laugh at me, make fun of me. So all of that had to do with part of their culture they grew up with,
Right.
and part of it was their defense mechanism, because they didn't like they deferred to other people. That's why people will gossip. Power.
Right.
They want power, and they think with that power and information comes some type of authority. Oh, I didn't know that. Really? Thanks for telling me. So that's just the evil of mankind, right?
Yep.
But here's the thing. This is what I wrote down, and I believe you helped me with this, right? We have to displace or remove, I want to scream it, but I won't, fear.
Yes.
If we
Exactly.
don't, so talk about boundaries. Boundaries are temporary.
Yeah.
Now, boundaries may be you may have to have a restraining order, which is a permanent boundary towards somebody else, right? You might need that, right? Boundaries become temporary because once we remove the fear of that,
Yep.
then it's like people, one of the courses is overcoming phobias and fears, right? So fears of spiders, all that. I was asking my daughter, I said, why me and mom were never scared of spiders. Why are you scared of spiders? Oh, they're ugly. So I'm curious, like this is like now her kids are scared of spiders because mom is scared of
Of course.
spiders. Right?
That's exactly it. That's right.
So here's the last thing I wrote. We cannot move forward if we allow fear to direct us.
That's right.
We will not. You will be stuck in a holding pattern over the airport of your well-being.
Exactly. Could be for your whole life. Right?
You will put up dozens of fences.
Yeah.
You will put up the electricity until you value yourself enough to go, you know what? So I'm going to go back to the very beginning. You were talking about love and you weren't talking about me, but I'm going to throw me in there, right? So what I'm learning to with me, boundaries, right? So my boundaries is I have to not allow what anybody's perception of my decisions and choices. I don't want to be manipulated or motivated because I want somebody's approval.
Right. Right.
Right. Using a sister, sisters is not on here, thought I should have left 1,000 years ago, a long time ago, right?
Gotcha.
I
Right.
appreciate that value. We
Yeah.
won't say anymore. I mean, but
Yeah.
you know what? But I have to check my heart and go, you know what? I have to be, if I'm true to myself, I feel I'll be true, I'll be more likely to be true to other people.
Right.
Right. Like you and Al, when you feel not arrogant, but confident, you know what? I feel like I can talk to Al about this, or I feel like I can talk to the boys or Nicole
For sure.
or
Yeah.
Tom
Yeah.
or mom. So we live in a place where fear is such a brutal and boundaries come in because if we're scared to, like if we don't have the ability to deal with emotional abuse, we'll say, we need to set boundaries.
For sure.
But you're going to want to take those boundaries off with the next relationship you have because the next partner is going to touch the fence and
That's
he's
right.
going to, what the hell? What did I do? Right.
Exactly.
I'm going
Right.
to leave on a horrible thing I did 1,000 years ago when I was a caveman.
Uh-oh.
And then you finish up, but this is my last little story.
Okay. Okay.
So when I first got married, because I'm a funny guy, right? I like to be funny. Hey, you know,
For a
whatever, right?
funny family.
And
Yeah.
so when I was younger and I was lighter and could move a bit, I don't know why. I don't remember why, but I remember me and Teresa being home in the kitchen, and I faked an epilepsy.
You didn't. Oh my God.
I did. I fell on the floor.
You remind me
jerked
of
around.
somebody right now. And you know who? Oh
I
my
was in,
God.
I know. It goes in the family.
Family. Oh
So-
my gosh. What's
So,
happening?
so what? Yeah, I know. And we weren't raised together, so I don't know if they got that
That's
gift from
what's
me.
so
Right?
funny. Oh,
But we, and I scared the crap out of her.
I imagine.
And she told me, she goes, she got a twin brother because my brother had that happen when he was younger, and it scared me, right? So all of a sudden, what was funny, right? So what Michelle was saying is our younger brother, who, well, hopefully he comes on here, and then we should interview him one day.
He's got the link. He's got the link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our younger brother, Michelle, and our baby brother, Jimmy, and first time we met, I think we were in Trenton or Belleville, whatever.
Yeah.
And we went in, we were so awkwardly but exciting, silly. Like it was just, you see siblings that you have not raised with.
Right? It was
It
before
was
Halloween.
again, yeah, it was Christmas, it was Halloween, yeah.
Halloween.
So we go
right.
to like a sand store, and Jimmy is probably the funniest of us all. We're all funny, but he's funny. So he's in there and he's got like that crash test dumb mask on. He's standing by the post. He's scaring old ladies, and he gets away with it because he's just super cute. Like he gets away with it, right?
Yeah.
So then we're leaving, and okay, we know what we know. We don't know. We don't know. So we're leaving, and Jimmy's behind us, and me and Michelle are walking down the street, and we can hear him going, "Ugh," just being like silly, right?
Oh my
So
God.
we're going, "Oh, silly guy." So we look behind us, and behind him is an actual special needs.
Struggling. Yeah.
And we're trying to say, stop. And he wasn't. See, here's the funny thing. I mean, there's no boundary. There's just a funny story.
Yeah.
He wasn't trying to be a jerk.
Not at
He was
all.
just
Nicest guy.
he would never be offend. He's a very
That's
caring guy,
right.
right?
That's right.
But in the middle, we don't know. So sometimes if there's an offense, I think when we become confident, maybe this is a boundary or not,
Yeah,
but I think it's how we communicate. You said, Michelle, earlier,
right.
we were able to go, you know what? Um, that didn't we don't attack the person, but you go, what when you said that, I didn't feel very good. We don't have to say, you made me feel like shit,
Right,
right?
exactly. You know what it makes me think of? You're not stupid. What you did was stupid. Like, right?
Love
Like
it.
you think about people calling names or whatever, right? Or like the
Yeah.
son that's in prison. Like, I still love you, but boy, I hate what you did. Right? Like that it's
Yeah.
the two, so you still have your unconditional love. And it's so interesting because when you were saying that, two different, like before your story. But two different things come to mind. For one, it made me think about when we talk about goal setting. So when you're living your best life, are these toxic things part of it? Are these, like, if you're the average of the five people you surround yourself with, are those certain people? And then again, of course, relationships, like your relationship with your a parent or a sibling is going to be a different than the guy you work with that you might never see again if he gets fired tomorrow, right? So you've got different dynamics there. But I think realizing, like, if I set these borders and boundaries, what's it going to look like? So what's that relationship going to look like? And then if when I get to my whatever my best life looks like, yeah, where do these people fit in? Or where do these activities fit in? And it's so funny what you said about, you know, uh, the world sort of aligning with you and you're a positive person. You're not doing the gossip, you're not doing, all the other stuff that goes with it. Then, in those moments, you'll find that you don't have to make boundaries because you've already eliminated the people. And like really negative people don't want to hang out with me because I drive them nuts because
But here's a
I'm not combative, but I'm like not participating, right? And not like I'll walk
you know
away. I'll
what,
be
Michelle?
like, Tom's on the phone, I gotta go.
Hello, it's like you crumple. I can't hear you. It's a bad connection, right?
Sorry, I'll
But,
listen to
but
your
here's what
drama later.
but here, Michelle's what I believe exactly what you're saying. But you know what? See, when we become healthier, stronger, we'll say, like
Yeah,
in with it with ourselves, right? So as we get older, sorry, Gwen, I don't know how old you are, but with all of us, we're all getting older. It doesn't matter.
every day.
Our physical being,
Yeah,
potentially our mental being begins to deteriorate. That's just the reality of being our biological makeup. It doesn't mean it all. Like a friend of mine's dad just celebrated 102nd birthday.
I
It's
was gonna
crazy.
say, yeah, there's a lot of factors, right?
Yeah.
If you look at the
So,
blue zone.
but there yeah. So the thing is, here's the thing I was going to say. When you become you invest into yourself and become healthy, right?
Yeah,
Then you're not. I'm not talking about evil people and really bad people,
right.
but then you're not threatened by. You don't have to buffer yourself with only the pom poms. All of
That's
a
right.
sudden, you're not. But it's a two-way street. If you feel secure in yourself and you have a trusted relationship, right? Like I was watching something. I don't watch. We don't talk about politics here, but I can bring some up because it was just so wonderful this morning. I was up early doing some work, right? So I put on the TV in the background. So it was Fox News. It's in the background, right? And they were interviewing um, five. I can't remember the lady doing it, Faulkner, but interviewing five young Gen X people,
Okay.
and they were in that 20 whatever. And so three were Republican and two were Democrat. And you know what? And I remember this from school. You know what? They the way they listened to each other but challenged what you said. One said this, he
Good.
goes, "No, you're wrong. Tell me, give me proof of that." You know
Right.
what they did? They didn't come against that person's character. They
Exactly.
didn't, like you said before. They so I find when I become stronger,
Yeah.
like so I don't like the word stronger, but when I take care of myself and my well-being, even when I'm having a personal bad day and whatever's going on, right? I find that I'm I'm not intimidated by people of different truths or different. Now, if somebody's an ass, just saying that, if somebody like those things there are obvious shut down. If somebody's an abusive, neglectful, arrogant, it's like the guys in the bar that just think they own the bar and they're just like pieces of crap, right?
Right.
I don't even have to like confront them. I just have nothing to do with them.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
But in it, I think this whole idea, I mean, this whole idea, and again, Gwen, we love and appreciate for those of you that interject stuff. We're wanting that, we're encouraging that, right?
Yeah. For
Because
sure.
it helps us, right? So yeah, so the thing about boundaries is like if you want to do homework, this is your goal setting. I think goals, setting self goals, self value goals,
Yep.
can help us um, navigate through the boundaries we need to set with others
Right.
because
That's
it becomes obvious.
right.
Family members,
Mm.
I've got some family members, Michelle. We don't talk politics because they go cuckoo and they don't know how, like, whatever. Mom won't be in it. So, brother, second brother,
Yeah. Yeah.
and mom
Yeah.
cannot talk politics. And
Oh,
I've
I
been
can
there.
just
And
imagine.
I said, you know
Yeah.
what? And when I talk one on one, I say, I wish you wouldn't get so uptight about this. I wish, even though I can totally agree that this person, politicians A, B is bad or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want to be, if I'm thrown off because you're saying something, then I need to check myself. Right.
Well, this is it. And the world sure changed. I mean, I think, and this is just my opinion, there's nothing wrong with not talking about politics. What was it? Sex and religion. I think that was, I mean, in your own water cooler area or just in, with certain people, but now it's just so prevalent and it's such a topic. And yeah, it creates wedges. It's like it's terrible when you have a no topic zone because
Yeah.
that people take it personally. I find that the funniest thing that we're in Canada and people take it personally what's going on in other countries. And it's just so weird to me. I know. And to like have wedges about it or like even any of the stuff. I find it an interesting time. And I think that's certainly part of what's wrong with just some some of the environment that we live in.
Well, it's politics and authority and leader. See, if I ran for
Yeah.
office, so this is Tom's ending. You know, my platform would be if I ran for office, gummies for everybody. No.
Now we're talking.
No.
Where's my pom
We
poms?
are. So I was asking Ethan about all of the northern lights and all the things we're seeing. It's so beautiful. So he explains it to people, because he's a scientist.
That's the
Why it
science.
happens. It's got to do with suns and the ions in the air and all the stuff, right? So some of us know that, right? No, it's not just political. Um, not just relationship, but our humanity, especially North America, it's very different in other parts of the world. Just so you know, they're not all, unless it's like a weird part of the world and there's extremists and stuff, right? Some of the most poor parts of the world live in the most peace and harmony
Oh my
and
God,
compassionate and
absolutely.
kindness, right?
And generous.
Are the
Yeah.
particles happening right now? The particles happening in North America. Actually, it's not just North America. It's probably I'm thinking of Russia and China, like this modern world about power and all this stuff, right? There's such a charge in the particles in the air and this chest pumping and all this stuff going on that it's dangerous. Now, do we live in fear? I can't. If somebody's gonna drop a bomb, Michelle, I can't change anything. It's probably going to Toronto. No joking. It's probably, but you know what I can do if I live in sense of peace, not denial. That's going to help me relationships. That's going to help me when people are like fighting over stupid.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
the Leafs. Oh, the Leafs suck. I can't talk to you because the Leafs suck. Oh, you like
Yeah,
Vancouver?
great example. Yeah,
Holy crap.
exactly. That's right. Yeah. It's so interesting. But I think, that it all goes back to working on self, right? Figuring out where you're at, where you came from. It's very important that we look back at that, and then where you want to be moving forward and who you want to take with you. We all have the ability to take people with us into our future. And maybe there's just some little, some little tweaks. It doesn't have, I wonder if we lost him or not. His face is frozen. But
See,
yeah, it could just be a matter of applying some
we
little,
we have the ability
yeah,
to change this world,
we do.
right?
We do.
We don't have to get a platform. Like
Yeah.
even the negative naysayers, we and me and you talk about this all the time. If we can learn to be kind to ourselves and say we're worth it and cheer ourselves on, whatever that looks like, me
Yep.
and you is different, but same thing.
Yep.
Then bring that into the grocery store. When somebody's overwhelmed with something, we have the ability to encourage and speak life. You're going to get through this, right? You've got it, right?
That's right.
That's incredible. That's humbling power. We're not trying to manipulate,
No, no,
right?
there's
We're,
absolutely
we're
nothing to gain.
so the kindness that
Right?
you got, no, no. So yeah, so I think, yeah, I just think boundaries are important, but I do think, I mean, I think you'll have natural boundaries, but they're temporal. It's like for me, creating the habit of going to the gym. I'll still go to the gym, but it's temporal
Right,
because I don't have to go to the gym. I got stuff here. I can go for a walk. What the gym is doing is allowing me to help my body be healthy, right?
right.
Healthy mind, maybe one of these days we'll talk about too.
Yeah,
So, okay,
absolutely, for sure. All right,
you're gonna
good.
sing us a song out. Sing for me.
Um, I don't do that. No, no, not today, kids. We won't be doing that. But I hope everybody has a fabulous week and really think about that. Really think about like, this is where you are, this is where you want to be, and then what does that look like in between? And if you have to set some boundaries, what that exactly looks like. What are you showing us? Oh, Seinfeld. Oh, neat. Did you
This
get all
is
those signed
this
yourself?
is this is the very first script from Seinfeld, the pilot.
Wow, that's cool. Very cool. Neat.
Sorry, I should have interrupted you. I apologize.
That's
Squirrel.
fine.
Squirrel.
That's fine. Yeah, squirrel, exactly.
Okay.
We'll regroup next week. Also try to stay active on the page, share if you think of any topics that you want us to cover, or educate us, that's an option too. So we encourage you to share, and even just memes and stuff on the page would be fabulous. And we'll regroup next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for coming. Bye.